Today, I'm delighted to be your moderator for Regulatory Intelligence session. Personally and professionally, I believe that regulatory is a backbone of any organization, community, authority, whatever. How to regulate your work, how to put the right innovative solution and create solution to increase the access of our medicine to the community is one of the big aspects. And it needs collaboration between all of us, either from industry, from policymaker, regulator, and different stakeholders in this process. And that's why today I'm delighted to introduce two of our main experts in the market. And let me introduce our speakers for today. The first speaker is Dr. Rima Nsheiwat, Regulatory Access and Market Intelligence Strategist and consultant in a BV Amsterdam Medical and Scientific Alliance. She is a medical devices and regulatory speaker. She has over 18 years of experience in regulatory access and market intelligence. And she also has different roles in Shukar Group, Arab Drug Stores, Arab Medical and Scientific Alliance, and Amsterdam Medical Scientific Alliance. She was a part from a team responsible for revision of a different Jordanian FDA regulation, member in Drug Owner Association, in addition of many other activities. So let's welcome Dr. Rima Nsheiwat. The second speaker is Dr. Marielouise Hanna, industry leader in corporate strategy, market access, founder of Reg.Cloud. Dr. Marielouise posts an impressive career spanning over 25 years, during which we lead various roles within the pharmaceutical industry. Her expertise extends across market access, global regulatory affairs, corporate function, and both at global and regional level. Driven by commitment of excellence, she contributed to success in a major multinational corporation, including GSK, Novartis, Sandoz, Asino, Pharma, Biotech, and Genetics. In 2018, Dr. Hanna embarked on new venture, founding Reg.Cloud, specialized in pharmaceutical consultancy. The Reg.Cloud provides invaluable services in corporate strategy. So let me welcome Dr. Hanna.
مساء الخير. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir. I'm Rima. I'll start talking about the regulatory intelligence topic. I'm sure all of you already had their lunches. I'll do the light appetizer, and I will leave the real deal to Marie. So let's see what is regulatory intelligence and why we are tackling this important topic for today. So before we start, let's recall some expressions that are related to the regulatory intelligence, such as regulatory compliance, regulatory access, market intelligence, regulatory affairs, yet the bigger umbrella is actually the regulatory intelligence. How to use it?
The green one.
Green one? Okay, sorry. So what regulatory intelligence helps us do is it helps us to look at the tree without losing the sight of the forest. The forest is the pharma industry, is all the stakeholders. And the tree is the specific regulatory-related activities and effects. So actually, regulatory intelligence is about seeing the forest and the trees and how they relate to each other. As I told you, this very light session will be about introduction and definition of the regulatory intelligence. What is the process of regulatory intelligence? Who are the arms and how they get advantage of the regulatory intelligence and the regulatory intelligence of today and of tomorrow? Starting with the definition of regulatory intelligence, let's agree that it is a process. Regulatory intelligence is a process. Any process will need an input, a process happening, and an output. Yet, regulatory intelligence actually is a systematic process. It's about collecting, analyzing, and dissemination the information, not only that are regulatory related, actually they're market related, regulatory related, policies and guidelines, which affect the development, manufacturing, distribution, and surveillance and regulation of products. So actually, it's a process, a tool or a process that you use all throughout the product life cycle. Even before start the R&D session, you need to do your regulatory intelligence homework. Pre-marketing, marketing, and post-marketing. It's in a very simple nutshell, it's adding value to the information you collect and getting advantage of this value, of this information. So what is the advantage that you can get, or what is the role of the regulatory intelligence? I'll give some actual example from my experience. But first, let's say how regulatory intelligence is important for compliance. Compliance nowadays is becoming a very big topic, a hot topic in the pharma industry, on different level, on the pharma industry and even on the regulatory or regulators or regulatory authority. So having the right analyzed and processed information will help the company to stay aligned and to stay compliant with all legal requirements. If you want to talk about competitive advantage, it's like having strategized the best decision so you can have a high market share and you can have edge in the market. For example, one of the cases I used to work back then in Jordan that is related to how the regulatory intelligence helps in the competitive advantage, it is related to a product. We wanted to increase the price with the authority, and everyone knows how hard it's to increase the price of a product. What really happened is we got an insight information, a competitor intelligence information, that the other competitor having a shortage in the product supply. So this information gave me a good lobbying cards with the authority to increase my price because I will assure the supply of the product. As you can see in this case, the regulatory intelligence goes beyond registration, post-marketing approvals, and technical aspects. It's using the right information in the right time, in the right way. The strategic decision-making is very important for having a regulatory intelligence tool. Why is that? Because it's not about every company wants to have its product in the market. It's not only this. I need to have the right strategic decision, meaning that sometimes, also one of the projects I worked on, we wanted to register a product where the site was not yet fully registered at JFDA. And the documents were not completed, so site visit is due. Site visit is a lot of money and a lot of time. What we actually did, we delayed the registration for 3 months until the site get an EMA approval. So in this case, I don't have to do the site visit. I don't have to pay for the site visit and to wait for the time. We delayed it 3 months, yet the product was much faster in the market. This is how the information will help me to strategize my decisions. In addition, we all know how regulatory intelligence is important for the risk mitigation. You can predict what the risk, you can solve it, and you can mitigate it in advance because you have the right information. And never to forget how the regulatory intelligence helps even the authorities in streamlining their workflow and in the efficiency or how they will manage effectively their resources. As we said, regulatory is a process. We need to have the right input. We need to do the right process so we can have the valuable output. So also we agreed that the input in the regulatory intelligence process is information. So from where we can get this information? What is the source of the regulatory intelligence information? Every information is a source of regulatory intelligence information. It's not only what the authority is planning to do, it's not only what the competitor is doing, it's not only what I'm planning to do, even the customer, the patient, the healthcare provider, any information you came to know, it will help you somehow to have a bigger pool of input, so you can process these information more, so they will be more valuable. The second part, which is related to the process itself. The process is about collecting the information, filtering the information, analyzing the information, but you have to keep in mind that it is a continuous process. You take one decision based on the inputs. The inputs are variable. The variable will change continuously. So while changing continuously, you have to take care that your process will need to change, so the outcomes will change. And you will always be ahead with your planning and strategizing your decision as any stakeholders in the pharma industry. Okay. What's the importance of the outcomes? We said about the input, we talked about the process. Now let's talk about the outcomes. Definitely, for the MAH, it will help them to decide which product to develop. So we're talking about a step even before R&D. Also, on a business level, it will help them to strategize their access decision. Okay, I'll go for this country. They have less requirement. They have a high profit edge. I can market my product in them first. So it will help the company to determine which market to bring product to and in which order. Also, it will help plan and organize their resources. Based on prioritizing their decision, they will allocate the right resources for the right processes. As for the legislator or the authorities, once we were working with the JFDA on the site accreditation, I think Dr. Zakiya used to be in this committee, site accreditation. At that time, back then, to register any company, it should be doing one step of the manufacturing size. We used to suffer with the batch releaser company. We cannot register it based on the previous regulation. What we helped the authority as pharma industry, we help them with other legislation. So we bring some reference regulation confirming that the batch release is one of the accredited manufacturing step. So if I register it, it's very easy to register a company only for batch releaser. This is how the authorities will get advantage of regulatory intelligence. It's not about helping the industry as stakeholder. It's also about helping the authorities. All the harmonization that we've been discussing the previous 2 days, it's part of the regulatory intelligence to have something that will assure the compliance, yet make things easier. This is part of the regulatory intelligence. Also, it will help the legislators to model and anticipate the effect of their regulation, because all the countries, all the authorities need to assure access to innovative products. And usually innovative products is the first in the market to have special requirement. So once the authority will understand this and work parallel with the industry to analyze the regulatory intelligence, they will assure the access of patients to these products in a safe, quality, and effective way. And finally, so what's the mega trends now? What's happening in the pharma industry in general that will be reflected on the regulatory intelligence? We're in the era of artificial intelligence. How the artificial intelligence will help? It will help in collecting. It will help in analyzing. There's an application that helps you to track each authority's regulation and any updates on them, and it will create a trend. So using the trends now, or the mega trends, will help you. Also, having the patient part of the regulation and their involvement is one of the mega trends that's happening now. Never to forget about the sustainability concept of having a linear, cleaner, and greener environment, including the medicine. So this is how the regulatory intelligence is affected by whatever is happening in the environment, in the pharma industry, and even outside in the pharma industry. Finally, my favorite slide is, if we're saying that this is the skeleton, this is the stakeholders in the pharma industry, the internal stakeholders within the company, and the external stakeholders. If you want to see where the regulatory intelligence stands, I think, okay. Okay, it's definitely, but this should be moving. It is the backbone. The regulatory intelligence is what keeps everything aligned together and what assures a smooth movement of the business industry in general. Thank you. Marie?
Thank you, Rima. That was very insightful and really correctly to the point. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Marielouise, and I'm really happy to always be part of the pharma summits that are prepared by the excellent team here. So that being in Dubai and now in Africa, so it's really a pleasure to be here. Today I'm going to talk based on what Rima already prepared. It was something that we coordinated together. Rima started talking about regulatory intelligence, and I would like to bring that up one level and talk about regulatory strategy and vision. And here it's very interesting for us as regulatory people coming both from all stakeholders of the value chain, that being in the pharma industries, local industries, multinationals, and health agencies. It's really about how we look at our discipline, the regulatory affairs. So I'm going to start. No? Which one? This one. Yes. Yes. So I'm going to start by giving a little bit of definition, just so that we are clear on what we are discussing today. When we talk about regulatory affairs, we need also to differentiate that from regulatory strategy. And both these disciplines are important for any regulatory person in the field. When I talk about regulatory affairs, that's the operational part. So this has to do with all our technical capabilities, our know-how, how strong we are, how much experience we have, the exposure that we got, and all of these things, how strong we can review a dossier, and we can advise on the technical solutions and the problem solving. When we speak about regulatory strategy, on the other hand, regulatory strategy is looking at the wider picture of this, is touching more on the business side of regulatory. And it's very important now to highlight, and I believe that pharma currently reached that level to understand that regulatory affairs is no longer just a department in the company or what they used to call a service department in the company. Today, regulatory affairs is the driving force beyond any commercial activity in the company. Any market access starts with regulatory affairs. So our role as regulatory people cannot just stay at the level of operational, of pure regulatory affairs and say, yeah, but we are very strong in the technical review, we know our dossier, we know our CTD, we know the content of our file, and we know the requirements. This is not enough, and it's no longer enough. Today, regulatory professionals are expected to also advise on strategy, but even to lead on strategy in their organization. So how are we going to do that? So the first thing we need to think about is, in regulatory affairs in all the departments in the companies, we believe that if we put on the submission plan, that we have now our plan and what we call our strategy for the coming year or for 2 years and so on. But this is not enough. The regulatory strategy has to do with the different components that are usually internal and external to us. The internal component would be the organization strategy. If you are working in a company, you need to align with the vision of that company, where they want to go. They have a program to access Africa, let's say. So this is where we need to study our strategy and study our market access. But at the same time, we need to look as regulatory professionals into the health agency vision, but also into the country economical vision. And what do I mean by that? You are, of course, yesterday and today, of course, you heard a lot about all the programs that are enrolling now in Africa for the vaccine manufacturing and for any type of cooperation and transfer of know-how and compulsory licensing that is going towards Africa to support the local industries and to facilitate access to the patient. At the same time, we know about the visions that we have as well in the Middle East, among which the Vision 2030 that goes across GCC, but that's led by Saudi Arabia, but also UAE, also Oman, and many others, whereby the localization of industries in general, among which the pharmaceutical, is one of the key strategies that they are working on. For us as regulatory people, what does that mean? When I read that press release about the vision of 2030, let's say in Saudi Arabia, as a regulatory person, I need to think about it, I need to reflect on it, and I need to think, what does this mean in terms of short-term and long-term strategies for us? This means that going forward, if you want to access a big market such as Saudi Arabia, you have to think about how to join forces with the local industry. It means that importation or exportation to Saudi Arabia will not be that smooth as it was previously, right? Disregard of the technical barriers and the high process that they have, but even the concept itself today, there is more encouragement towards come to our country, bring your know-how, and join forces with our local experts, bring that know-how into the country and localize your manufacturing into the country. So this tells you, and this you can detect from just one press release. The moment you read that, as a regulatory professional, this is how you need to analyze that information. And why I'm saying this? Because we can no longer be regulatory people sitting behind the desk and behind the dossier. We need to be regulatory people going forward towards our distributors, our health agencies, having meetings, having conferences such as this one today, engaging in talks, listening and reading about the country's vision. If today we have a strategy as a company, let's say, to go into Africa, I cannot go into Africa just by opening the guidelines and reading the requirements and starting to prepare module 1 and I have my CTD, then I'm done. It doesn't work that way. I have first to respect the strategy and the vision that Africa has. I have to respect the efforts that the health agencies in Africa are doing and what is the direction per country. If the country today would like to encourage their local industry, me going as a company or advising a company to go as a consultant, let's say, I have to take them to be a contributing player into that country. So this is not anymore about throwing dossiers here and there and saying that we did our regulatory plan or we put our regulatory plan into effect. This is really about being a partner with the country that you are going to target. You are going to benefit commercially eventually from that country, so it's better to do it in the right way. Another point as well, very important, when we speak about regulatory strategy is the market pricing formula. This is also it's a key component. It has nothing to do with commercial because pricing is still part of the regulatory registration process. So it's your responsibility also as a regulatory person to always be informed about how the pricing is happening in this country that I'm targeting. What is the model, but then also what is the model in the different market access pathways? If I go through a joint venture with a local industry in that specific country and I perform a secondary packaging, what is my premium price? What happens? Do I get a fast track? Do I get a premium on tender? What is that pathway? What does it give me? You need to know that. We need to know that. And this plays a big part in steering the whole regulatory submission plan. So it's no longer about going to that country in that date with that dossier, but maybe changing the strategy, engaging with local distributors, engaging with the health agency, being aware if there are compulsory licenses already that are given by multinationals or through United Nations or through the medicine patent pool or through the vaccine community or WHO. So all these initiatives we need to be aware of. And it's only then when we do really our homework we can say that we can write down the strategy and give the best recommendation as to how to approach a region such as Africa or Middle East or any emerging market, because this business logic that I'm speaking about now, this you can take it and apply it everywhere. You can even go to Latin America, you can go CIS, Balkans, any other Eastern Europe, any country where you would like to go, especially in emerging markets, because they are very much similar in the approach. But this is really the way to associate all these functions and all these disciplines into and incorporate it into your regulatory plan. So this is, I jumped already on this because, just for the sake of time, but just to tell you that when you prepare your regulatory strategy, always the first thing to do is to study your target region, study your target markets, read about, talk to your distributors, ask about what the health agency is working on as projects, ask about, read about the press releases, read about the country, the visions, what is the trend, what does it mean in the coming 2-3 years? Maybe importation is no longer possible. Do I start my registration process into a country knowing that in 3 years maybe they will ask me to go local? Or do I start local from now? So all of these things we have to think about. The more you engage with health agencies, the more you engage with your own organization, the more you engage with your distributors, you go on, you do your visits, the joint visit, and so on, the more you will be able to understand the regulatory intelligence that Rima spoke about, which plays a big role here, as to know how to steer your strategy so that you can ensure continuity. One dimension that is very important in regulatory affairs. This is not, our KPI is not only about dispatching a dossier. And what I mean by that, sending the dossier to your distributor or submitting your dossier in your country and that's it, you're done. That is not it. Regulatory affairs has a commercial dimension, and without it, it cannot function. The commercial dimension is that you always need to think that anything that you're doing in regulatory is automatically related or has an impact on the commercial strategy of the company and has a commercial impact. Immediately, that being in lifecycle management, so if you're doing variations, pricing, whatever you're doing, renewals, any delay, any wrong management of that will have a commercial implication. The same goes about the strategy. If today I engage my company into a country with, let's say, Africa, right? And I go and I can throw maybe 1,000 dossiers as a global company. 1,000 dossiers, we have all the requirements, we are ready. I throw 1,000 dossiers, but I don't study beforehand the pricing strategy of Africa, how I will approach the health agencies, what is my offering to the health agency, what is also my mission in Africa, being a global company, and I want to support the continent, considering all the demographics and so on. If this homework is not done, then you will find yourself facing 1,000 submissions that you cannot sell. And at the end, you get a marketing authorization which you cannot commercialize because simply you cannot cope with the expectation of price. So all of these components are extremely important, and understanding where the region is going, where the country is going, is primordial before setting up any plan and throwing any dossier to that country. So how do we utilize the collected regulatory intelligence? This is what I spoke about. It's also following the process that Rima mentioned, but it comes with a very important component, which is risk assessment. And here, you really need to work on contingency plans and think about, if this doesn't work, then what is my alternative? How can I improve on my strategy? What else can I do? How can I do it faster? Access to market, as you know, today in regulatory, one of our main objectives is to access the market the fastest, especially if we, even if we are in the originator business, but also if we are of course, if we are in the generic business. How do I reduce my timelines? So this comes from the regulatory strategy, and it comes from the intelligence and from doing my homework and understanding what are the fast-track pathways into that region or into that country, while, of course, remaining compliant. Internally, as best practices that would strengthen our regulatory strategy would be, whenever we write a regulatory submission plan, we need to think that we're not writing a submission plan that is pure rigid with dates and countries and ownerships, but we are writing a regulatory strategy. And we need to have, for each country, a very clear description of the market, of the health agency practices, of the country direction, and this is how we present our work. And accordingly, we can accordingly say, so based on this, regulatory intelligence of the country and the direction and vision of the country, this is what we recommend as regulatory plan. So it always needs to have that component, and I invite you to always do that exercise. And a very important point, which Rima also mentioned about regulatory intelligence, and that goes hand in hand into the strategy eventually, is to always monitor that. And how do we do it? I was just discussing with many colleagues today that even though we think that we know a lot about a region or about Middle East, Africa, and so on, every day things might change. From 1 month to another, things might change. So staying up to date on the information is exactly like this forum is allowing us to do, is really key to maintaining this level of information. We constantly need to monitor the visions, the missions of countries, of regions, of health agencies, and this we can only do by engaging with our target country. We engage with the health agency, we engage with the distributors, we engage with the people we know from the industry. So regulatory is no longer a discipline that sits behind a desk, and that's extremely important. It's an outgoing discipline, and this is what is expected from us, but this is also how we are able today to lead on that business. Externally, the best practices would be to know more about the partners, the possible partners in each country where we go, to know about the local industry, to know about the strength of the local industry, to understand the dynamic of fast tracks, premium pricing, premium access, facilities, investments, and so on. So choosing the right partner also is very important, the distributor, and so on. That's why I invite you today to think about all these things, to take the regulatory affairs discipline into a level that is one step up in how we are looking at this amazing discipline. For me, I've been doing that for the past 25 years, and it's really my passion. So it's really a beautiful career, and it's quite rewarding at the end when you see how much it's interesting, how much it can be rewarding to have a big network, to know a lot of people, to engage with a lot of people, and to see how we can link all the dots together. So I invite you into that step, that dimension of regulatory affairs, which I believe is really beautiful. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marielouise, for this. Really, it's amazing. I feel the vibes. Everyone now is proud to be part of the regulatory field. Regulatory, let me reframe the message that regulatory really connect the dots between different stakeholders in the healthcare system, internally, externally, and with the authority to deliver and to ensure fast access for our medicine in the market with the right strategy, because we saw a lot of new launches doesn't do well because of not right information, not right pricing, not right regulatory strategy, as you said. So regulatory intelligence is a main objective now for all of us. And now, guys, we have just 6 minutes left. So if there's any open question for attendees.
Thank you very much for this interesting session. It's very important for all of us. I just would like to ask you about these changes, because sometimes it's very hard to catch up with the changes. I know that we built our strategies sometimes and our plans, regulatory plans and regulatory strategies on the guidelines and regulations in different countries. But sometimes the changes are so fast to keep and catch up with them. Like for some specific countries, Saudi are doing a lot of changes. The GCC, Jordan, Lebanon, So every while and then we see like new regulations, new decrees, that it's so hard to keep up with them and to catch up with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I will. Allow me to answer this one. Of course, it's always a challenge to cope that fast with changes that are happening in the regulatory, especially when they happen fast. However, the way they happen, usually they start with drafts. That being also in Saudi and in Jordan, the practice is now spreading across health agencies to have draft guidelines that are being shared with pharma, shared with the society for us to review, to give our opinion, or maybe even to be informed. If we don't want to comment, but at least to be informed that these changes are happening. So this is where our role as regulatory comes, that we go proactively into this and not reactive. So this is where the difference will be. The more proactive we are, and that's the importance of what Rima mentioned about intelligence, is that you know in advance that there is a draft that is being reviewed, that is being thought of, you have a look at it, even if it is not in its final form, but you know at least what is the direction. Because the final form will not change that dramatically from the draft, right? So it will be just fine-tuned. That's why it's very important, as much as you can, to be proactive into knowing this information before it is published, so that you can anticipate what you need to change in your plan. So this is how I would recommend to do it. Dr. Zakia? Yeah.
Thank you. First, really thank you so much, both of you, for the very nice presentation, very informative. I have one question. Now we can see that many of the regulatory authorities within the region are coming ICH member, full member, or observer. So they are in the process to be within the ICH. This means that more and more abiding by the ICH guideline, including, for example, quality by design, development and so on. So continuous manufacturing. So from the intelligence you are bringing, do you think that in a very short future we will see some requirement coming into this direction? Because as I see, for example, regulatory authorities, they in each 5 years they are bringing something totally new to the industry. Before, for example, we have the CTD, the pharmacovigilance, and so on. So there is steps where something new is included. Do you see something new from the ICH perspective, especially that many regulatory authorities are joining? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zakia. Actually, the fact that they are joining means that eventually we should expect that they would abide by all these requirements. What we have seen from the health agencies is that they do that on phases. So we have seen it in the pharmacovigilance, the way enrollment happens, and the way it is dictated by and recommended actually by all the consultants working in that field, that such changes, because they are dramatic, I would say, in a way for us, and they are new to our region, I think that the enrollment is going to be on phases. It should come with the proper trainings, with the proper workshops offered to the industries, and then it can be implemented. Now, who's going to lead really on this? We will have to see. My personal opinion, I would expect Egypt, I would expect Saudi Arabia and Jordan as being, they have always been pioneering in leading the guidelines, or the novelty in the guidelines, let's say, or bringing the guidelines up a level. But I'm really hoping this time that everyone will be up to speed with these authorities. But we're looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rima.
Thank you,
Marielouise, for the session.